Welcome back. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. This quote is often misattributed to being that of Einstein. There is no proof Einstein ever said it. And the last time I looked, whoever started that phrase, wherever that came from, at this point, unknown. Completely unrelated to the Buffalo Sabres. Totally, completely, absolutely unrelated to the Buffalo Sabres, who have not reached the Stanley Cup playoffs since 2011. So, it's been a while. And I don't know if this team is any better suited right now than they were at the end of this season to make the playoffs in 2026. But I don't think so. And I think there's a lot of things that have to fall their way for them to get not only into playoff contention, but end up above the playoff line in the East. I don't know. The Atlantic is getting a lot tougher, which doesn't make things easier for Buffalo either. So looking at their forward group, now I'm using the lines from Daily Faceoff again. And they've got some bold ones here. Kulich on the first line, I think, is potentially possible. I will say that. But going over to the left side, Zach Benson, 75 games, 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. Benson has been good, but there's a lot more there. And for the Buffalo Sabres to really, truly get to that playoff level, they're going to need a lot more from some of their young players. Zucker had a really good year, 73 games, 21 goals, 32 assists, 53 points. So Zucker's enjoying his time in Buffalo, which is noteworthy. There are definitely some players who are quite happy to be playing for the Sabres and want to see this team make the playoffs. Josh Doan acquired via trade with Utah, 51 games, 7 goals, 12 assists, 19 points for him this past season. I think Doan, there's likelihood that he's top 9, probably not top 6, but in the case of an injury, he can jump up the lineup. Greenway is also there on the left side, not really a points producer, but decent for bottom 6 depth, sure. And then we get down the middle, and this is where I have numerous concerns. Like I said, Kulich on the first line, that could work. 62 games this past season, 15 goals, 9 assists, 24 points. But I really like his game. I think Kulich has a lot of potential. And with the exit of J.J. Peterka, it opens up a spot on special teams, etc. Maybe Kulich ends up jumping in and getting more ice time as a result. Josh Norris, who is signed to a deal that pays him $7.95 million, at least that's the cap hit until 2030, played 3 games after being acquired by Buffalo, had a goal and an assist for 2 points. And considering how well Dylan Cousins fit in Ottawa, it's kind of important to Buffalo that Norris, A, stays healthy, and B, plays well. If Norris can get back to where he was a few years ago in Ottawa, this trade should work out pretty well for both teams. If not, it may be another case of a player leaving Buffalo and having greater success, and the player being traded to Buffalo not necessarily having that level of success. I do like Norris's game when healthy, but when healthy is the key word there. Ryan McLeod was a home run, I thought, last season. Now, Matthew Savoy still could become a decent NHLer, but I think McLeod has been exactly what Buffalo needed. 79 games, 20 goals, 33 assists, 53 points. Really strong season from McLeod, which is easy to overlook because Buffalo was mired at or near the bottom of the league at times, and just it's been a tough time. And in terms of their overall play, there's a lot left. There's a lot left to be desired, really, with Buffalo over the years. And Peyton Krebs, a player that I think at this point, yeah, he's bottom 6 the rest of the way and doesn't really hurt them in a fourth line role. On the right side, you got Tage Thompson, one of the best bargain contracts in the NHL, $7.14 million cap hit till 2030. 76 games played this past season, 44 goals, 28 assists, 72 points. So Buffalo may be mediocre. Tage Thompson definitely is not mediocre. He's a very good forward. And I think Buffalo is fortunate that Tage Thompson has not at any point in time that I've ever seen complained that he'd like to go somewhere else, wants a chance to win, isn't quite sure about the direction Buffalo's taking. I haven't seen that. And Alex Tuch, it sounds like, wants to stick around. He's in the final year of his contract, $4.75 million cap hit, and apparently they've been talking extension with him. 82 games this past season, 36 goals, 31 assists, 67 points for Tuch. And quietly, I think Alex Tuch has been his best offensively since joining the Buffalo Sabres. So, once again, there are players who have Good experience going to Buffalo and play better in Buffalo. Understandable that people might just look at being traded to Buffalo as, being excommunicated from good numbers and happiness, but there are definitely some happy players in Buffalo. Jack Quinn, a favorite of mine who did not perform as well necessarily as I had hoped this past season, but he's still young. 74 games, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points for Jack Quinn. And there is still that potential there for Quinn. And so we'll see if he gets, some more special teams time this year and how things turn out for him. And Justin Danforth, an example of a player who didn't give up and stuck with his dream and ended up reaching the NHL. Coming out of Columbus, 61 games, 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points for Danforth this past season. He does not take a shift off. He's very hardworking. I think he'll be popular in Buffalo. So that's your forward group. And then for depth, you still have Malenstein, Ostland, who got into some games this past season. Roseanne's still there. Dunn, Meyer, and former first-round pick Hellenius would be in the mix as well. Maybe he forces his way into the lineup. We shall see. And for Buffalo, that's the thing. They're not bad. I'm not looking at Buffalo and saying they're bad. But do I look at this lineup and say, are they going to knock off a wild card team in the East and end up occupying that spot? I don't think that forward group is in that vicinity in terms of its depth and top end and all of that. But I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see Buffalo turn things around. And the blue line should give people hope. And the first thing that's noteworthy here is Bowen Byram. Whether they opt to sign him and keep him long term, and they're taking him to arbitration so they don't have to worry about an offer sheet, does not rule out a trade, right? He's a restricted free agent, played 82 games this past season, 7 goals, 31 assists, 38 points for Byram. Byram's a very good young top 4 defenseman. He will end up giving them a pretty good return, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a defenseman and a forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking for somebody who can play center, not necessarily primarily a center, but a forward who can take faceoffs down the middle if need be, and to give themselves a bit of flexibility with their lineup. But yeah, Byram is probably going to be talked about every day until he gets traded. Dahlin, $11 million cap hit for him until 2032. 73 games played this past season, 17 goals, 51 assists, 68 points. Excellent numbers for Dahlin. Plays very well, just plays in Buffalo, doesn't get as much attention. I don't think the cap hit for Dahlin is bad, and I think it's only going to age well. Owen Power, a lot said about Owen Power in both directions. I've seen people who love his game and people who don't. $8.35 million cap hit for Power until 2031. Much like with Dahlin, I think that cap hit is only going to age well for Owen Power, because the cap's going to keep going up and it's going to decrease the percentage that's being paid to Power. Michael Kesselring, who was picked up from Utah, and understandable that people weren't happy about that trade, with Utah, if they were, looking at it from a Buffalo perspective. I still think Kesselring's a good defenseman. 82 games this past season with Utah, 7 goals, 22 assists, 29 points. I thought Kesselring had a really strong season. And I think if he can bring that game to Buffalo, if he can have another year like that, I think Sabres fans are going to be happy. Samuelsson, if he's dropped down to that third pairing, that should help too, right? If you're a Sabres fan who feels like Samuelsson hasn't played his best hockey, maybe having him play fewer minutes, some sheltered minutes, maybe that helps him get his confidence back. $4.25 million cap hit for Samuelsson until 2030. Again, I understand there are people who don't like the contract. I don't think it's that crippling for them in terms of cap. They have a bunch of cap space, although, as I said, Byram is a restricted free agent. He's going to eat a lot of that up if he stays, but he probably doesn't stay. That being said, whoever they get in his place will eat up that cap space as well. But I still think Samuelsson is not really hurting them that badly at this point in time. Timmins is listed as a restricted free agent at this point on Puckpedia, so Timmins will lead into that as well, but decent depth defenseman. They also picked up Zach Jones from the Rangers. Ryan Johnson, of course, there is depth, and Jack Rathbone, who at times has been much beloved by fan bases, but has not quite cracked an NHL roster. Maybe this year, probably not, but I'll throw it on the board and say, sure, why not? Now, the goaltending is going to be interesting because they pick up Alex Lyon, who didn't have a great year, but he had a good year. Not fantastic, but I thought good year, and at least his numbers are better than either Levi or Luukkonen. Luukkonen, 24-24-5 record, 887 save percentage. He has a $4.75 million cap hit till 2029. And Luukkonen had some good games in there, absolutely. Are his numbers hurt because he plays in Buffalo? Probably. But Lyon was 14-9-1 with an 896 save percentage. So understandable they picked him up, especially with Levi having his struggles. Now, Levi's listed as a restricted free agent as well. I don't think Levi gets a big raise. I think he probably gets a 2 or a 3 year deal. He was 2-7 with the Buffalo Sabres this past season with 872 save percentage. So, Levi probably needs some more time in the AHL. Their cap space currently, according to Puckpedia, $13,640,319. As I mentioned before, Peterka has left the team. Lafferty, Clifton are off the team as well, who played last year. And Clifton being off the team may make them a little bit less physical, although Kesselring can play physical as well. So we'll see what their hit totals look like. But it is something that over the last couple of years I have often made the comment when I'm doing a review. Buffalo didn't feel like hitting tonight. And maybe getting a little bit more sandpaper, hitting a little bit more, playing a little more aggressive could help. I don't know if they have the lineup to do that, but it might be worth a shot for Lindy Ruff, who's in the second year of his coaching stint with Buffalo this time around. And of course, Kevyn Adams has been the general manager since June 16th of 2020. You would think that Kevyn Adams would be under a lot of pressure to get Buffalo to the playoffs this season. Should definitely encourage him to make some more aggressive moves, but there will always be that conversation about who wants to go to Buffalo. The reality is, if you want players to want to play in Buffalo, your team has to, start winning some games, maybe make the playoffs here and there. But it is tricky because you're kind of, it's almost like a chicken and egg debate in that you have to get the players in order to win, and to get those players, you kind of have to start winning. It's an interesting dilemma to have. But for the Buffalo Sabres, I hope they get off to a really good start and they can maintain it. It would be great to see Buffalo back in the playoffs, but it'll be interesting to see what else they do the rest of this offseason. Hopefully when we get to the season preview next month, we've seen the Byram trade at that point. Hopefully we've seen an addition or two made via that trade, and maybe some other shakeups. What shakeups would you like to see as a Sabres fan if you're watching this? I know Kevyn Adams being on his way out the door might be one of those options, but let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.